Hey everyone, you ever get to the end of a day and wonder, where did it go? Or maybe you've had a day that just seemed to drag on forever. It's this wild, universal thing, how time seems to stretch and shrink. Well, today, we're going to get into the science of why that happens.
I mean, we've all been there, right? You wait all week for that perfect weekend getaway. You blink, and suddenly it's Monday morning, and it feels like it barely even happened. That amazing vacation, just gone. It's not just in your head. This is a real, fundamental part of how our brains process reality.
And this contrast is everywhere. Time absolutely flies when you're on a fun vacation or at a great party, but oh man, does it crawl during a boring meeting or when you're stuck in a waiting room? This is the whole game, right here. The psychology behind why our internal clock is so, well, flexible.
Okay, so here's the game plan for today. First, we're going to look at the key ingredients that actually shape our sense of time. Then, and this is crucial, we'll see the difference between how we feel time passing in the moment versus how we remember a whole day. We'll also connect all this to our mood and even the choices we make, and we'll wrap it all up with a really powerful idea, that your time is basically a story.
So, let's get into it. What are these factors that make time speed up or slow down? Well, it turns out it's not random at all. Scientists can actually measure the psychological ingredients that mess with our internal clock. This isn't magic, it's a totally measurable thing.
And our guide for this whole deep dive is this really cool 2023 study from the journal Psychological Research. What these researchers did was pretty clever. They used an app to ping people randomly throughout their day, asking them, hey, how are you feeling right now? And how fast does time feel like it's passing? This gave them a real-time, in-the-moment look at how our internal clocks actually tick.
All right, first up, a little bit of jargon, but it's an easy one. In the world of science, this feeling we're talking about is called a passage of time judgment, or POTJ for short. That's all it is, your personal, subjective feeling of how fast time is moving.
So the researchers kept track of 5 main things. First, how alert are you? Second, emotional valence, which is just a fancy way of saying, are your emotions positive or negative right now? Third, emotional arousal, which is about the intensity of those emotions. Like, are you just kind of happy or are you totally ecstatic? Fourth, time expectation. Basically, how much do you want time to pass quickly? And finally, how much are you actually paying attention to the clock? These are the building blocks.
Okay, now let's check out the first chunk of results from the study. The researchers zoomed in on how people felt time passing over these short 30-minute windows. So what really matters when you're right there in the thick of it?
Well, the results for these short bursts were really fascinating. You can see here that 4 of those factors were what they call significant predictors. Now, that's just science speak for these are the things that really make a difference. So in plain English, how alert you were, how much you wanted time to pass, how positive you felt, and the intensity of your feelings, all of those directly changed how fast time felt in that specific moment.
So here's the simple takeaway for when you're in the moment. Time seems to just fly by when you're alert, you're happy, and you're feeling things intensely. But, and this is the crazy part, the more you want time to speed up, like during that awful meeting, the slower it actually feels. Your own brain is working against you.
So that's the moment-to-moment experience. But what happens when you get to the end of the day and you look back and think, wow, that day went by fast? Does the same logic apply when you're judging the whole 24-hour period?
This is where it gets really, really interesting, because the things that shape our memory of how fast a day went are actually different from the things that shape our experience in the moment. The story totally changes.
Just look at this, the picture completely flips. When you're judging an entire day in retrospect, only 2 things really mattered: how much you wanted time to pass and the intensity of your emotions. All of a sudden, how alert you were or whether the day was generally happy or sad, poof, none of that predicted how fast you remember the day going by. That is a massive difference from that 30-minute window.
So let's put it side by side, because this is the whole punchline. To judge a moment, your brain cares about how alert you are and how positive you feel. But to judge a whole day, it kind of ignores that stuff. Instead, it focuses on the emotional intensity, that arousal, and whether you are wishing the day away. This means a day that was just packed with intense experiences, good or bad, is the one you'll remember as flying by.
Okay, so this is super interesting psychology, right? Our brains literally use different rules for judging moments versus judging days. But why does any of this actually matter in the real world? Well, it turns out our internal clock has a huge impact on our mood, our health, and even the decisions we make every single day.
A perfect example of this is something called seasonal affective disorder, or SAD. It's a type of depression that's directly linked to the changing seasons, especially as the days get shorter in the fall and winter. It's a powerful reminder of just how deeply our sense of time, daylight, and our mood are all connected.
So what's going on under the hood with SAD? Well, the leading theories say that less sunlight can mess with our biology in three main ways. It can lower serotonin, which helps regulate our mood. It can throw off our circadian rhythm, that's our natural 24-hour body clock, and it can disrupt melatonin, the hormone that controls when we feel sleepy. Our perception of time is biological, not just in our heads.
And this internal clock doesn't just mess with our mood, it actually affects our wallets through something called time preference. It sounds complicated, but it's super simple. It's just about how much you value getting something now versus getting a bigger reward later. If you're really impatient, you've got a high time preference. Here's the classic test. Would you rather have $100 right now, today, or $110 in 1 month? There's no right or wrong answer, but your choice reveals a lot about how you discount the future. And that little preference shapes everything from whether you save for retirement to the health choices you make every day.
So we've seen how time works in the moment and over a whole day. We've seen how it connects to our well-being and our choices. Let's bring this all home and talk about the single most important takeaway from all of this.
The study's authors wrapped it up with this key sentence. Now, what does that mean? It means your judgment of a day isn't just one thing. It's actually a mix of two things: the average feeling of all the moments in your day, combined with a really heavy influence from whatever happened most recently.
Let me put that a simpler way, because this is so important. Your memory literally writes a story about your day, and that story is shaped by the overall intensity of all its different chapters. But the ending of the story, the ending gets extra weight. A day that ends on a really high note can actually change your memory of the whole thing.
And that leaves us with one final, kind of empowering thought. If your perception of a day is a story, and if you know that you have extra influence over how that story ends, how will you choose to write it? Knowing how your mind keeps time is maybe the first step to really taking ownership of your days.